Very good morning to all of you. So, in the first two lectures, we have discussed various features about GST. Okay. Also, the disadvantages of previous tax regime vis-a-vis what are the benefits of introducing this new legislation, that is goods and services tax, right? From the date 1st July 2017. So let's now, it has to come from you. So let's now discuss what are the features, benefits, advantages, disadvantages of GST. Okay, I will note down, one by one we'll start, right? So who wants to volunteer? Nothing is written on screen. I'm going to write it. Yes. First, I will start for you so that you can pick up the link and start. So it is indirect tax, which is regressive in nature. Next. Anyone? Yes. 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 Shifting of burden. So we have seen that value addition concept, okay, wherein the tax is collected from the ultimate consumer and paid to the government through a mechanism which is developed and which is called as value addition taxation. So the burden is shifted from one chain to the another chain and ultimately to the consumer. Yes. Next point. You all of you know it. Just try to formulate one by one. Don't mix up things, okay? Try to remember what were the drawbacks of earlier system. Yes, please. Correct. So it is one tax law for goods and services. Next. Correct. So helps in development. How? How does it help? Correct. So basically we have seen the budget related few screens wherein we saw how rupee comes and rupee goes. So approximately out of the entire revenue of the country, about 15 to 16% is generated from the revenue which is collected under GST, right? So it directly and indirectly helps in the development of the country. Very nice point. What else? We have seen few example, practical example, 100 plus 10, 110. Yes, biggest income source. So that is covered in this helps in development, correct? Similar point. Or you want me to write once again? Correct. So there is, she says same tax is collected from all the states. So there is uniformity. इसको हम लोग क्या कहते हैं? वन नेशन वन टैक्स. कलेक्शन मैकेनिज्म के बारे में किसी ने कुछ नहीं कहा. कैसे कलेक्ट करते हैं हम लोग? We have seen CGST, SGST, IGST, right? So it's a dual levy concept. C, S, और आप आगे भी देखेंगे I is there, U is there. U is for UT GST. Similar to states, we have union territories. So for union territories, it is UT GST. We'll see that in detail whenever we'll go to charge. What else? Cascading कुछ सुना है क्या हमने? Have we heard of that term, cascading? So उसके related what is the point? Sorry? Correct. So avoids duplication slash cascading. Eight. See, if you meet someone who wants to know about GST, you have so many points to discuss without even studying the subject. Next feature, maybe advantage, disadvantage. GST Council, सुना है हमने? कभी था पहले काउंसिल ऐसे? So this is a unique feature of GST, right? We have GST Council to recommend suggestions in the GST law, to recommend implementation of GST law, to make GST better. कोई भी legislation first day पे perfect होता है क्या? The answer is no. We have to make it perfect by bringing practical changes which are required by the trade and industry, and that mechanism is there in the place through the GST Council. What else? Minimum 10 तो करेंगे points, right? Minimum 10. Not like our BCom exams, active voice and then passive voice in the next sentence. Proper 10 points. Yes. GST. Yes. So rate structure. Is it an advantage or disadvantage? Both. How? How advantage and how disadvantage? Correct. So maybe there are certain commodities of extreme importance for day-to-day lives, salt, milk, like those. Those may be exempt from GST. So there is no tax and burden on the consumer who is consuming those commodities. Whereas certain commodities like luxury goods, like I gave you an example of SUV car, wherein the rate of tax is 28% plus cess comes to 40%. So if you are buying a car worth rupees 10 lakh, then 14 lakhs you pay effectively, right? So also there is a concept of sin taxation. What is a sin? sin का मतलब क्या है? sin? अरे sin नहीं जानते हो? पाप. sin is पाप. पाप पाप पुण्य पाप. कुछ दिखाओ चेहरे पे. Sin taxation is a concept which is popular in Indian taxation law and elsewhere also. So इसमें क्या रहता है कि morality angle is brought into the taxation system. Means consumption of certain products like maybe not alcohol because alcohol is not covered here, but tobacco based products, gutka, you know that gutka. So those products are charged in GST in such a manner that they want to promote that the consumption of these products should be reduced to a minimum level. So if you see some tobacco based products, the rate goes to 80%, 80 approximately to 80%. So if you are approximately, it is the double price that you are paying. So this is called as a sin taxation concept. It is considered as a sin through morality angles, and then there is a highest rate for it. Also, if we see the entire logic behind our taxation classification system, then as she rightly pointed out, commodities of basic necessities that we need day in, day out are charged at a very low rate or maybe exempt 0%, 5%. Then commodities which are neither luxury nor basic necessities are in between, so maybe 12%. Some service, majority of the services are at 18%. And then you have luxury goods or items of high importance, not high importance, but as treated as someone, treated as a category where someone is ready to expend a few bucks more, that are classified under 28%. And then there is sales also for luxury items. Unlike some other countries, for example, UAE VAT. UAE VAT, there are only two rates. One is 0, means exempt, and second is 5%. Flat 5% for everything. So advantage is that consumers are benefited at certain point of time, but disadvantage is then that there are classification issues. So you must be aware that there is a concept called as HSN, Harmonized System of Nomenclature, or SAC, Service Accounting Code. What are those? We'll see that in a while. But that is somehow we identify commodities and services under any taxation laws. There is a unique code which is given to that particular commodity or a service, and accordingly the rate is associated with that number, HSN code or SAC code. So there are a lot of times there are classification issues. I will give you one example of shoes. So shoes may be of different categories: casual shoes, sports shoes, leather shoes. In leather also, with less, without less, depending upon the quality of the leather, quality A, quality B, maybe grade A, grade B, etc. So all these commodities are having different HSN codes, Harmonized System of Nomenclature. So across the globe, in the entire world, this nomenclature system is accepted. So India follows the same nomenclature system which is globally followed. We had a customs tariff act earlier. Similar concepts are used in GST also. So what happens sometimes is that I, as a user of that commodity or buyer of that commodity or seller of that commodity, may get confused as to whether HSN number so and so is applicable to me or HSN number this is applicable to me. Maybe those are having different rates. And if I decide that no, this is applicable to me, this is my commodity, and that is a lower rate, and there is another HSN code which is having a higher GST rate, then I may end up paying lesser taxes. And then tomorrow government will come after 2-3 years, assess my books of accounts and will say, no, that code was applicable to you and you have taken a wrong code. Classification issue, correct? Whether my commodity is classified into this HSN code or that HSN code. So multiple rates also lead to these issues. Though it is benefited from another angle, there are issues with this particular aspect. So clear with the rate structure? Next feature. Yes? GSTN, what is that? Yes, anyone? GST network, which we call it as common portal for GST. So we have an infrastructural base which is created for all the procedural parts, all the compliances, everything under GST. So tomorrow, if Mr. X wants to obtain registration under GST, he will have to go to www.gst.gov.in. That is the GST network's web address. There he will have to apply for the registration. Once registered under GST, there comes the compliance part. So every month the registered person has to file certain returns. Do you understand what is a return? Income tax return, GST return, right? Return is not taking something in return. Return is furnishing certain information to the government. That is commonly called as return. Okay, in layman's language, return is returning something. sometimes people call refund as return. So if I pay 100 rupees tax, not GST, let's assume for income tax, and actual tax liability comes to 85 rupees. So what I will get 15 rupees as a refund from government. So certain times layman confuses return with refund, but you should not. You are students of CA exam, right? So you should know what is the difference between a refund and a return. So return is something related to compliance. Every month we'll see, we have an entire topic dedicated to compliance under GST, wherein we'll see in details how to file returns, what are the details which are contained in those returns, etc. So GST network, okay. So if one has to do compliance under GST, he has to file return and he has to go to the GSTN, that is a common portal. Then if one has to apply for refund, then also there is a mechanism under GST network. He has to visit the GST portal www.gst.gov.in and apply for the refund. Even if one has to cancel the registration under GST, the place to which you are supposed to go is GST network. So this is a common portal. We call it as a common portal. Why common? Because for all these activities, this is one common portal that is there, correct? What else? Finished with everything? Or still anything remaining? We discussed about different rates under earlier tax regimes. So petrol being cheaper at Karnataka. Why? Because it is not covered by GST. So why that used to happen? Difference in rates. So now, along with the uniformity in the processes, there is a uniformity in the rates also. So making India as a one market. Okay, one nation, one market. So those are the points that we have discussed. So these are some of the benefits of GST, which are written on your, which are displayed on your screen. So creation of unified national market, we have just seen this point. Boosts Make in India, obviously, because of all the reasons, those advantages that we discussed. Then enhanced investments and employment. Why? Internally, when we are saying that we are one nation, one market, one nation, one tax, also the investors from outside or the traders with India will feel comfortable to deal with Indian markets, right? So obviously it enhances the investments from abroad. Then simplified tax structure. If you ask any practicing chartered accountant who is practicing into GST, he would not agree with this point, that it is not a simplified tax structure. But yes, to some extent compared to the earlier tax laws, it is a simplified tax structure. There are so many complications. See, what happens is that whenever there is a new tax law, still what 4.5 years have passed since the launch of the GST. Since the launch of the GST, there have been thousands of notifications, circulars, orders which have passed by the government to make few changes in the law or to clarify certain difficult aspects of the law. And as a common practitioners, maybe professionals are not in a position to keep pace with those many circulars, notification and changes. So they find it difficult to update their knowledge base because it is changing so fast that maybe, see, if client comes today, I will tell him something that this is the law, this is the provision and you are supposed to act in this manner. Tomorrow it changes. So is it practically possible for me to call everyone and tell them that this has changed? Yesterday I told you this, but now it is not that way. So it creates some practical difficulties. Yes, we are trying to overcome it, but still there are various practical difficulties which are not yet resolved at this point in time. So maybe ease of doing business according to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is a benefit, but practically this point is a little bit debatable. Certainty in tax administration, yes. Now we don't have different state, fancies and whims to face for a taxpayer. Taxpayer now knows that nation-wise there is a same procedure followed, same rules are there. same compliance things are required to be done, etc. And at some points, the state takes, that liberty to make different rules. For example, e-way bill, electronic way bill is something there in the GST. I will explain in a bit what is e-way bill. So for e-way bill, the limit is told that if you are moving any goods from place A to place B having value, consignment value above 50,000 rupees, then you are not then you are required to issue the e-way bill. Only if the value of the consignment is exceeding 50,000. So some states took the liberty to increase that limit from 50,000 to 1 lakh. So that little bit of changes state-wise are different, but if you see the overall law, rules, procedural parts, returns, compliances, refunds related procedures, etc., all are approximately the same. So yes, there is a certainty in the administration as far as GST is concerned. Then easy tax compliance. Again, this is a debatable point. Because of numerous changes happening every now and then, the compliance becomes a task for the professionals as well as for the industry. And reduction in compliance cost. This is also another debatable point. Now the professionals have started charging more compared to pre-GST regime because there are multiple returns those are required to be filed. We'll study that when we'll go to the returns topic. Now for the trade and industry, benefits to agricultural and other industries, rather it is for all the industries. Mitigation of ill effects of cascading. Now we have discussed in detail what was cascading, how we are trying to mitigate that cascading, etc. And benefits to small traders and entrepreneurs like composition. Now composition is an interesting aspect of GST, which I think I must write in these points. Composition scheme benefits. So what is a composition scheme? Does anyone know? Okay. Whenever there is a new tax law, new procedures come in, and obviously people do not like the change, right? Naturally people do not like the change. So government is always pressurized to give certain reliefs to the small business groups, those who are having small businesses, small entrepreneurs, etc. So what government has done under GST is that government has given a composition scheme for small taxpayers. They have given a threshold limit of turnover. So if your turnover is below that specific limit, then a lot of compliance related reliefs are given to you. Means what? Means the rate of tax is one specified rate. You need not check which commodity you are trading, what is the rate for that commodity. You just pay X percentage of tax. So there is no classification issue. Then they says, okay, don't file monthly compliance. You do it quarterly. There is a relief for you because you are a small compliant. Okay. So like that, there are various benefits which are given to the small business owners, and that is what we call as composition scheme, composition benefit. So our GST Act ensures that small taxpayers and large taxpayers are not at the same level. So they have tried to create artificial differentiation. It is called as intelligent differentiation. So a little bit of constitutional reference. If you know Constitution, there is Article 14 of the Constitution, which talks about equality of law and equal protection of law. So every citizen of the country should get equal protection of law. There should not be distinction. That is what article says. So what this article also says is that the government can make artificial differentiation to give equal benefits. Okay. So by creating this composition scheme, are they, contravening the Article 14 of the Constitution? The answer is no, because they are actually trying to establish that equality by creating a differentiation. So for a small group, small taxpayer giving certain benefits means they are actually trying to equate the big taxpayers with the small ones. If small and big same are charged at one rate, there would not be justice or equality. Do you understand this point? So Article 14 of the Constitution, equality and equal protection of law is ensured through this differentiation. Okay, clear? So these were the few of the benefits of the GST. Now we will see the framework of GST introduced in India. This is the last point that we are going to cover. in this topic. After that, we will start with the fresh topic. If time permits, today only we will start it. At least I will give you the introduction of the new topic. Okay. So, few of the points we need not also discuss. Rather, you tell me about those points. Okay. So, first 3 points. First 3 points. Who will explain? The points are dual GST, CSUI GST, and legislative framework. Who wants to try to explain these 3 points? Just few minutes back we have discussed this. So now you should be in a position to explain. I just want you all to speak. Yes. What is so difficult in dual GST? We have seen Article 246A of the Constitution. Haven't we? So what was it? Why blank faces? Central government and state government have equal rights to levy, charge, and collect GST on intra-state transactions. Dual GST. I feel like I am explaining this for the first time. At least I have repeated this 4 to 5 times, isn't it? Do you agree with me or not? At least say yes or no. चाय कॉफी पिया कि नहीं? हाँ, बोनविटा. Okay. So dual GST. Who wants to explain now? Just repeat me. Whatever I have just said, just you have to repeat, but you have to speak. Or should I start pointing out who is next to speak? Yes. Correct. So what about interstate? Correct. IGST is the correct answer. But who will levy the tax? Central government, right? What about imports? Central government, IGST, right? So for imports and interstate transactions under GST, the tax will be levied, collected, charged, levied, and the components of GST: C, S, U, I. It is either S or U and I. Okay. Now classification of goods and services. Who will explain this? Come on. Classification. थोड़ा वॉल्यूम. HSC, HSN, SSC. What is HSN? चलो tell me full form of HSN. हार्मोनाइज्ड नोटबुक्स वगैरह है कि नहीं? फाउंडेशन हो गया, नोटबुक्स नहीं लगेगा अभी. हाँ, लिखते जाओ. Keep taking notes wherever you feel like that it is an important part. Harmonized system of nomenclature, correct. And what about SAC? SAC, Service Accounting Code. सर ये तो रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर है, बाद में देख लेंगे. हाँ, स्टिल यू राइट सम इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स. चलो नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. composition scheme. Okay, use any language. Okay, use any language, but explain what is a composition scheme. Hindi, Marathi, English. Those are the three languages that I understand. Correct? Correct? So basically, benefits and reliefs are given to small taxpayers. Correct? So that is a composition scheme. Registration. Now we have an entire topic dedicated to this registration. So getting registered under GST, who all are liable to get registered under GST, what are the different mechanisms through the registration is sought. For example, if a taxpayer exceeds certain threshold of the revenue, revenue means turnover, then he is liable to get himself or herself registered under GST. Also, there is a category. So this threshold is covered under section 22 of the CGST Act 2017. There is another section 24 of the CGST Act 2017, which says that irrespective of your turnover, you are liable to get registered under GST. So from rupee 1, you should get registered. That is called as mandatory registration. So one is mandatory registration, the another is registration where you are required to obtain registration only if you cross certain turnover threshold limit. If you are exclusively supplying goods, the turnover would be 40 lakhs. If you are supplying goods and services, 20 lakhs. And we'll see, some states have got lesser limits, some states are more. So that we'll see in detail when we'll go to the registration topic. So registration under GST. We are actually looking at the framework and various features of the GST law. So next is exemption. We have discussed this. Who wants to explain? Exemption. Correct. Absolute necessities, right? So those are exempted. Goods and services also, right? So certain services are also exempt because those are of utmost importance to day-to-day lives. See, usually what happens, when the GST law was introduced and through notification, certain goods and services were exempted. But some group of taxpayers feel, or some group of industrial organizations feel, that there should be exemptions for our goods also or our services also, which is not there right now. So what they do, they meet finance minister, they meet the council members, they give a representation that ये ऐसा ऐसा importance है, इसका इतना है, इतना वो है. So regional, maybe regional commodities etc. And they give a representation to the government कि इसको भी आप exemptions में include करो. So whenever the GST council meets periodically, they discuss all these aspects, whether it is really required to give exemption to those goods and services. That is discussed at length during the GST council meeting, and based on those discussion, recommendation is made by GST council to the government कि yes, we agree that this is a commodity which requires exemption, and आप जो भी required legislative procedural part है वो complete करो. So then the government issues a notification in the official gazette exempting certain commodities or removing certain exemptions also. It happens other way around also sometimes. So did you understand the process? So exemption, importance of exemption. Then you explain this to me, what is seamless flow of credit? We have seen case studies, few examples yesterday. So what was seamless flow of credit, which was not there in the earlier tax regime, which is now tried to be achieved under GST? Seamless flow of credit. What is credit? Input tax credit. Taxes paid to the earlier chain owner, right? Do we get the benefit of that under GST? The answer is yes. In the previous tax regime, was it possible? CST का benefit मिलता था क्या? दूसरे स्टेट के टैक्स का जो बेनिफिट है वो मिलता था क्या? एक्साइज का बेनिफिट वैट में मिलता था क्या? नो. सो देयर वाज नो क्रॉस यूटिलाइजेशन स्टेट वाइज और लॉ वाइज. ओके, जो सर्विस टैक्स में रजिस्टर्ड था, मे बी अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, लेट्स टेक example of a chartered accountant pre-GST regime. What he used to pay as a tax, service tax. Okay. Was he manufacturing anything? No. Was he trading into anything? No. So was he liable to get registered under excise in the earlier regime? Excise was only for manufacturing. Was he manufacturing? No. So answer is no. Was he a trader? No. So was he liable to get registered under MVAT, Maharashtra VAT, or whichever state it is that? So he is neither registered under excise nor registered under MVAT, but he is registered under service tax because he was providing services pre-GST regime. So whatever taxes he has paid on, let's say, purchase of stationery to lagta hai CA ko, right? He must have paid VAT to the supplier. Okay. He might have purchased air conditions. एयर कंडीशन पे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग जब किया है एक्साइज लगेगा, जो ट्रेडर है वो वैट लगाएगा. सो ऑल दोस टैक्सेस, वाज ही लायबल टू गेट द बेनिफिट ऑफ इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट ऑन दैट? देयर वाज नो मैकेनिज्म टू एंश्योर दैट ही शुड गेट दैट बेनिफिट. सो seamless flow of credit, was it there in the earlier tax regime? No. Now whether a chartered accountant is there or a manufacturer is there, all are registered under GST. Entire taxes, those are paid, either those are CGST, SGST or IGST, made before goods or services, same taxes. So now whether the cross utilization is allowed, answer is yes, and that is what we call as seamless flow of credit. Means disturbance less credit. Earlier there was disturbance. So clear with this point? GST common portal, just we have seen this. Now you explain one by one. What is it for? Yes. Filing returns, correct? So what else? Registration, other services, even I will tell you, now notices are being served to the taxpayers. It is a self-assessment procedures under GST. Means I, as a registered taxable person, I decide what tax needs to be paid. So I do my own calculation. How much sale is there for this month? How much were the purchases for that month? What is the difference tax I am liable to pay? And I pay it. But as a human, I may commit certain errors into that. So government will always assess my case later on. Whenever I pay tax, everything is over. Government will do some analytics and want to assess me that whether I paid correct taxes or not. I may do some fraud also intentionally. I may inflate my purchases. I may deflate my sales. That is possible, no? Because it is a self-assessment. I am filing returns. Government is not coming every month to my office and telling me, no, pay this much of tax. I will do calculation for you. Give me your purchase register. Give me your sales register. Doesn't happen that way, right? So in the assessment, there are certain discrepancies which the government wants to assess and scrutinize. They send notices. Now you understand why notices are being served. So these notices also are sent on GST network portal. So you log into the GST registration, check under the notices tab, have you received any notices? A mail also will be sent to you that check your portal, we have sent you a notice, comply with the notice. So I will read the notice, what are the issues, okay. So either myself or my authorized representative, my lawyer or a chartered accountant will appear before the authorities for hearing. Why do they want to appear? To explain, isn't it? So they will think something, facts are something different. That is what is litigation is all about, right? So department will think that this should be done in this manner. The taxpayer says that no, it should be done in this manner. So they meet, discuss, this taxpayer explains his side, authorities explains their side. If they agree, case is closed. If they don't agree, order is passed in a negative manner. Taxpayer will go into appeals. If appeal is heard, it is okay, it is agreed, then the case is closed. Otherwise, he will go to second appeal, that is tribunals. Tribunals are not yet formed under GST, but still. If that is also not settled, High Court. That is also not settled, Supreme Court. That is also not agreed, then Supreme Court is law of land. You have to agree, right? So there is a GST common portal. We cover three things. compliance means returns, as you rightly pointed out, registration, as you rightly pointed out, and then other things such as litigations also right now happening on online mode. During COVID situation, even this personal hearing was not available. What we did is that we asked for VC, video conferencing. So authorities were sitting across the wherever they were. They gave us a VC link, and we used to appear before the authorities through video conferencing. Still also, if we want, any appeals are going on, and if I want VC, I can also request them to send me a VC link. If it is a local case, usually we prefer going personally, but we can also ask for VC link. Virtually, we can conduct the hearings. So now, so much of reliance is there on the infrastructural thing. The role of GST Common Portal becomes very crucial in the overall success of the GST. Clear? Now, another aspect, okay, of online compliance is through e-way bill portal. I just referred some few minutes back about electronic way bill. So, for electronic way bill to understand, you need to understand one fact, that there is always a possibility of fraud commitments, right? So as I said, I want to deflate my sales. Is it possible? Okay, how do you pay lesser tax than required under GST? Any thoughts? Agar if I decide to evade taxes under GST, is there anything possible way out? This is not I'm teaching you to evade taxes. Okay, this is just a discussion. As a chartered accountant, you should always be aware various ways and means in which the tax can be evaded, so that you should have the appropriate knowledge about dealing all those matters. So, can you think of any ways in which this can be done? Yes, correct, for income tax. So you'll book certain expenses, those are fake expenses, and you reduce the profit. So on that reduced profits, you will pay lesser tax. At the time of scrutiny, if at all it comes, then if you are not able to produce the documentary evidence like vouchers or expense bills, then they might disallow that and ask you to pay the tax along with the interest and penalties. That is a different story. But yes, the way that you have told is very much correct. In GST, how do you do that? Means how do few of the people can do it? Showing less sales. Yes, correct. That is correct. Or showing purchases without actually purchasing goods. Okay, so asking my supplier to give me some bill. Okay, so that I can claim the input tax credit. But how do you, whatever you explained, how that is possible? Showing less sales. Okay, I will give you one example. Okay, a person wants to supply goods or sell goods who is located in Kolhapur and take a nearby location, maybe Karad. Karad is how much? 60 kilometers, right? 60-70 kilometers, maybe 1-2 hours. So they load the material into the truck and the truck goes to Karad, unloads the material, invoice is accompanied with the goods. Okay, once the goods are reached the location, means that the vehicle was never intercepted in between by the tax authorities. It is clear that they have reached, means there is no issue. So means that trader asks the Karad customer that you destroy the bill and pay me in cash. Is it not possible? Possible. So government thought of a mechanism to track such fraudulent scenarios. What was the mechanism? Electronic way bill. Means there is another portal which is opened by which is given by the government, that is www.ewaybillgst.gov.in. Whenever you want to start the movement of the goods for supply or for any other reason, then what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to log into this portal, fill in all the details. What are those details? Who is the seller? What is his registration number? What is the invoice under which you are supplying these goods, moving those goods? Then quantity of the material, nature of the material, HSN code, value of the material, what is the tax that is charged in the invoice, then pin code of the location from where you are sending the goods, pin code of the location to which you are sending the goods, And based on that, this e-way bill portal used to calculate the distance. So 416001 to Karad's pin code, they calculate the distance is 60 kilometers. Okay, and based on that distance, the validity will be generated for that e-way bill. Means you are starting the movement right now, the e-way bill will be valid for only a day, like that. So if the distance is, let's say, 1000 kilometers, it may be 5 days or 10 days. Like that, the distance is calculated and written on the e-way bill. So e-way bill will mention the current time of issuance of e-way bill and the time, date and time when it is going to expire. So you have to make the movement in between that period only. And while transporting the goods, you are required to carry the invoice as well as this e-way bill's copy, so that if tax authorities tomorrow intercept your vehicle, then they can verify कि यही इनवॉइस के ये गुड्स है क्या, यही ई-वे बिल के अगेंस्ट ये ट्रांसपोर्ट हो रहा है कि नहीं, एंड दे विल इंश्योर दैट एवरीथिंग इज इंटैक्ट, सो दैट इवन इफ यू tear off the invoice, it is registered with the authorities, government authorities, that you have supplied these goods. Now clear how they're trying to track the mechanism? Yes, there are loopholes in this system also that taxpayers will find out and try to manipulate, but let's not go into those intricacies right now. Right now you only remember that there is concept of e-way bill, wherein government has put in certain mechanism to ensure that there is no gray market which is parallelly running along with this thing, because that eventually reduces the taxes and the revenue of the government, right? I will tear it off means what? I will not pay the taxes to the government, so government revenue is reduced to that extent. Clear with that? Portal is accessible to taxpayers, consultants and tax officials. So there is another side to it. Tax officials can verify the details whatever we have inserted into, right? Then GSPs and ASPs. So this is GST Suvidha Provider and Application Service Provider. So we have discussed that on GST network we are doing all the compliance, etc., filing of returns, filing of refunds, filing of registration, filing of amendment to registration. Amendment to registration means I start business at Kolhapur, so I registered my place of business as Kolhapur. Tomorrow if I want to start my business at Pune location or Mumbai location, I am required to amend to my registration which I have taken earlier and add Pune as an additional place of business in my registration detail. So everything that is done on the GST network. But for all that to happen, government has given certain utilities. So if you want to file the returns, means what? You'll be giving all the details of sales, date of sales invoice, number of sales invoice, party to which you are selling, party's GST number, what is the basic amount, what is CGST, what is SGST, what is IGST, what is cess, what is total taxes, and what is the total gross amount. Everything you will inform to the government, right, while filing the compliance and GST return. So it is very difficult to every time open the portal and then fill in the information one by one. So they have developed certain utilities and given it to the common people so that they can fill those utilities. Utilities means basically Excel based templates. So you fill the templates, go to www.gst.gov.in and upload that portal. The information will get uploaded over there and you file the return. That is how they have done it. But sometimes that filling the utilities is also time taking and maybe burdensome. So there are GST Suvidha providers and application service providers. So one basic setup of GST network. Below that, there is another setup through which the taxpayers can access, and taxpayers, that is called as GST Suvidha providers. So Suvidha providers are registered with GST network to make the compliance easier. Okay, it is like a channel through which you get into the system. And also ASPs are there, that is applications with us, means we have softwares like Winman, TaxGenie, ClearTax, Digitax, etc. Numerous softwares are there, so through which we do the compliance, so that every time we want to log into the GST network, we need not put login ID, password, then do that. Software takes you to that, and it is like you can also file it through ASPs or GSPs. Means it is like wholesaler and retailer. Retailer sells it to the consumers, but sometimes wholesaler can also sell it to the consumers. So it is like that. GSPs ASPs, and then the taxpayer, and above all there is a GST network. Okay, basically you keep in mind there are these softwares through which the compliance is made easy. Clear? Compensation cess. What is that compensation cess? Why the states are not ready to bring petrol, diesel, etc. under GST? We have discussed this yesterday or maybe on the first day. Why states are not ready? More revenue is there. Say they don't want central government to share that revenue. So, but they have brought all other products. So their revenue might have hampered. They used to get entire thing as a VAT. Now they are getting only half of it. Technically half of it, right? So government has established a mechanism through which they have passed one act, Goods and Services Tax Compensation to State Cess Act 2017, through which this is not for our use, etc. It is mechanism between central and state governments, wherein central government, for the loss of that revenue which we were talking about, compensates states by paying certain amount. Clear? So that whatever loss of revenue that has happened will get compensated till some point in time. So that point was earlier, now it is extended up to March 23rd. So March 2023 is the time till which central government will keep on compensating the state governments. You often hear some finance minister always shouting that the cess which was required to be paid by central government is still not paid. So हमारे पास funds नहीं है. So central government is not paying us the GST component. GST component has not yet come. So that is this compensation cess. Clear? Now who will explain this to me? Certain goods or services are excluded. First let's discuss alcoholic liquor for human consumption. क्यों नहीं है GST में? I want exact reason. We have discussed this at length. This is just a revision. No new point. Yes. Entry 12A remember है किसको? 12A. Goods and services tax means tax on supply of goods or services or both, except. So Constitution itself says that GST is tax on goods and services except liquor for human consumption, correct? So why alcoholic liquor is not part of goods and services tax? Because the definition of GST tax itself does not cover this as a goods or services. What about petroleum products? Is there any difference between alcoholic liquor not covered under GST and petroleum products not covered under GST? Which are the petroleum products we are talking about first of all? 5 petroleum products, very good. Which are those? HSD, that is high speed diesel, means our regular diesel. Petrol, crude oil, natural gas. Fifth one, correct? कुणी सांगितलं? Yes. Aviation, turbine, fuel, ATF. So these are the 5 products which are not covered by GST, means excluded from GST. So is my question, simple question to you is that, is there any difference between these two facts, that alcoholic liquor is not covered by GST and 5 petroleum products are not covered by GST? Yes. So what is that difference? Correct. I will just modify the answer given by you. It is correct to the extent the concept is concerned. So alcoholic liquor is not part of GST until and unless the constitution is amended to that effect. But other 5 petroleum products are currently not under GST. Means tomorrow if all the states decide, we discussed that Kerala High Court suggestions that as quickly as possible you cover these 5 petroleum products under GST. So there was a 43rd or 45th GST Council meeting in which there was at length discussion as to what will happen if we cover these 5 products under GST, what will not happen. And majority of the states said, no, let's not get it covered because we will lose a lot of revenue right now. So they decided by majority that we are not going to bring these 5 petroleum products under GST right now. So eventually those 5 products will be under GST, but at a later date. So until and unless all the states agree, it will not happen. So you got the difference between why petroleum products are not covered and liquor is not covered. Tobacco. Tobacco is covered by sin taxation. I told you the concept of sin taxation. So it is covered by GST as well as it is covered by earlier excise regime. So the tax eventually is very high. Real estate sector, immovable properties is outside the ambit of GST. This statement is not 100% correct. This statement is subject to certain conditions, terms and conditions. Means immovable properties such as land is not covered because specifically in GST law, we will see that schedule in next topic. There is Schedule 3. Schedule 3 says that certain activities will be neither treated as supply of goods nor treated as supply of services, in which they have covered this land. Okay. So a completed flat where the completion certificate is given to the building or land is not covered by GST law, means that it is covered by Schedule 3, which is neither supply of goods nor supply of services. Don't get confused right now. We will see that in detail when it is covered by GST, when it is not covered by GST. All those conditions are there for our syllabus. We will see that in detail. But on and in a general perception, real estate sector is primarily covered under Stamps Act. So there is a stamp duty whenever we transfer certain immovable property. Land sell kiya hai, flat sell kiya hai, to you will have to pay the stamp duty under Stamps Act and registration charges. So clear? Last point we will cover. There is no enough time to start with the new topic, so we will start afresh tomorrow. But last point is GST Common Portal and e-way bill portal. We'll just quickly run through those points. We have already discussed, so quickly just revise. We have a GST Common Portal called as www.gst.gov.in, which is managed by GST Network. GST Network is a Section 8 company, which, so you may get a MCQ. GST portal is managed by whom? Central government, state government, finance ministry, GST network. Okay. So you might, because the weightage for this topic is anyway very, very less. So you might not. Then we have seen the functions: facilitating registration, forwarding the returns to authorities, computation and settlement of IGST, matching of tax payment detail with bank network, providing various MIS report. What is MIS? System. Perfect. So for government to assess and scrutinize the tax revenue, they need certain database. That database is generated through the GST network, and that data comes to them so that they will assess the data and start the investigation or scrutinies or audits or notices will be sent. So for them to generate additional revenue, they need database that is generated by GST network. Then pending analysis of taxpayers profile. Providing analysis of taxpayers profile. So there are certain intelligence services which are provided by special branch of GST or a central government, wherein a lot of analytical stuff is done and proper information is captured and given to the tax authorities that you further investigate these things. There is a possibility of tax evasion or there is a possibility of manipulation of the data. That is how the information is forwarded. Then this your GST e-way bill portal looks like this. So you have to log into the e-way bill and then put in all the details of the proposed transportation of goods. Whenever the movement is starting, before that you should be ready with the e-way bill issued. Okay, so it is a very simple compliance. Some, if the time permits during this entire batch, someday I will show my own registration login, and I will show you all the services, how GSTN portal works, how e-way bill portal works, everything I will try to show you, just to have a practical outlook over it. That is not for your exam, but I will just try to show it so that you will remember it properly. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India conducts one course, ELT, Earn, Train and Learn. So in that I'm one of the faculty. So what are we supposed to do is that not only teach the students about the concepts, etc., but also we log into our own registrations and show them, this is how the return needs to be filed, this is how we take the registration, this is how we cancel the registration, this is how we generate e-way bill. I actually generate e-way bill and show them. Okay, so that is, if time permits at all, we will do that one session in this classroom also. So now we have completed our first topic, that is overview of GST. We have seen various concepts. So starting with why GST, we saw the concept of budget, how the various revenue sources are there to contribute the revenue to the government. Then we saw the problems with the earlier tax regime. Then we saw the important concept of value addition taxation, which is the base for this indirect tax, how the credit is transferred through the benefit to the next chain, how the taxes are paid to the government, that we saw. Then we saw various features of GST law. We saw various features of e-way bill and GST network portal, etc. We saw some constitutional aspects which are pertaining to GST law. Okay, so what are you supposed to do now is to revise all these points before we start tomorrow's topic. You will not require more than 20 to 25 minutes to actually revise all these stuff. Because this area was new to you, we took about 3 lectures to complete the overview. But once you start revising it, you will understand that all the things are clear to you through conceptual perspective, and you will quickly revise all those points. So one thing that you have to do is 20 minutes once you reach home today, you have to spend for revising all the concepts that we discussed, so that you will be in a better position to appreciate the next topic that we are starting from tomorrow, that is concept of supply or supply under GST. Okay, thank you, good day.